here, but otherwise, something burning in there. Yeah, straight up out of it. Yeah, we'll just keep an eye on it, but the house is still good. Yeah. How we doing on water, Monday? Good on water? Okay. You good, James? Okay. You good, Monday? Okay.
It's like 10:30 in the morning. You wouldn't know it if you were up here. It's so dark. It's November 9th, the day after the campfire. I'm here in paradise and everything's gone. It's just all gone. Looks like a nuclear war or a bomb or something went off. It's just gone. Hours turned into days, and days, they turned into the first few weeks. People were looked for, hundreds were missing, some of them would never be found. We were just all moving around in a kind of a grey haze, looking for loved ones and places to live. We were all just scattered in the ashes.
What we're doing is a large-scale search for remains of people that are still missing. We currently have over 400 personnel out there searching right now. And this includes canine teams, anthropologists, approximately 300 search and rescue personnel, approximately 100 fire personnel working on
This has been an extremely challenging year for us. It's very similar to the last couple of years where we've seen these fires that are absolutely devastating.
Right now. And as you can see, the devastation is just continuing to get worse. We're not sure what we'll find up there, but
"13 years in one place we had never experienced." So when I found that through a text that the house was gone, that moment of crush came. I don't know if I would say that it was trauma. It probably was, because I disciple and I counsel people going through similar things, so I had to practice what I preached. and that is integrate God in the middle of where I was in the trauma. So it was the loss of, I've lost the home, and then when it was confirmed with pictures about 10 p.m. that night, from the time that I woke up at 7 a.m. till 10 p.m., I went through every part of emotion that you can think of. I wept, I wailed. You go through that grieving time of loss, absolutely. I'm still experiencing trauma.
I've got what's important. Mary and my faith. We're safe. People have asked me about grief and sense of loss, and it's there. I have it more often when I think of something that was important in our past life. As part of the trauma that you go through, as Mary called it, critical incident stress. And I got through the first week thinking, okay, I know we've lost everything, but we're going to be okay. But you don't realize how much of it is subconscious, and it sneaks up on you. And you begin to think there's something wrong with you. And the best thing that happened was when I began to understand that we're not alone. There's thousands of us coming out of paradise who've gone through the same kind of situation, drove out through fire. Some had to abandon their cars because they caught fire. Some lost family there. We're all going through this, and what I'm experiencing is not rare. It's not that there's something wrong with me. It's part of the process that I need to walk through intentionally.
It's been 6 months since the campfire destroyed so many homes, so many lives. And yet again and again, survivors have been told to pick up the pieces and move on. Thousands of people have been scattered all over the United States. And for many, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the voices of November 8th haunt them still.
Cool that propane tank occasionally. Okay, we're getting a little bit of firewalls in here, but otherwise, nothing burning in there.
PTSD isn't the word for it. At least once a week I have this really bad spell where I'm dizzy, it's hard to walk.
It's actually gotten harder for me because, and I don't know if other people feel this way, but at first it's a shock, really. You see it happening, you see the things on fire, you see the embers, hear the booms, see the people evacuating, all of that. But it doesn't register totally. It just doesn't. The full impact of the aftermath is what I feel now.
I get up and I feel like I'm passing out. I have trouble talking. One time it was on Thanksgiving dinner. Jolene we went to have dinner with our host, and she had to help me get out to the trailer because I couldn't walk.
The fire is out, but the aftermath it's here. It's still going on. For me, it's still going on. Where do I go now? How do I rebuild a life for myself?
I want to stay. Part of me wants to stay, and a part of me wants to move because this massive, destructive, deadly fire came through, and I made it one time, and I don't know if I'm going to make it again if it ever happens again.
Many of the businesses in Paradise and Magalia were destroyed by the campfire, but still there are those who bravely continue on.
We have people that come in here for therapy because they want to see something of Paradise that was before the fire that's still the same. And while they're in here, they they have paradise back. Actually started mopping about 9:30 this morning, but every time we have a flash flood, then it comes down these windows off the windowsill like a little waterfall and just runs out into the room.
We'll give it a few years. I think we'll be back up and running, like kind of like it was before, but not better. Yeah, hopefully better. Hopefully better. Yeah, we're probably making about half what we were making before, which isn't as bad as we expected.
Not everyone fled when the campfire struck Concal, Magalia, and Paradise. People like Sally Hugg and her husband stayed and fought the fire because they were able and prepared to do so.
When you've trained and prepared, it's possible to shelter in place, but you have to plan, you have to have everything worked out, you've got to have enough defensible space, and you also need the training in how to survive a wildfire if you cannot get out. It would have been a deadly situation if we had tried to get out because the fire was already down on the main road. There was no way I could have pulled a horse trailer out. The horses would have burned to death in the trailer. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. They would have died in that trailer and I could have died with them.
But no matter how well the preparations are made in a wildfire, there will always be that unknown element that destroys some properties and leaves others unharmed. Deborah Smith and her husband decided to flee the fire with their animals, leaving their home unprotected. The fire came within a quarter of a mile, but did not destroy their property or their home.
We were very fortunate and very blessed that our home is okay. How it missed us, only God in the universe knows. That leaves a serious impression on you, and you're kind of in denial. And then finally, when you get home, you can't deny it anymore what had happened. We didn't know if we would have a home or not. So we could have been right there with them. But it kind of kept your mind off of it as you're working to help, to help others. And then when we found out that we still do have a home and it looked that we still were going to have a home, then, survivor guilt does set in.
I feel very blessed that my house is still standing because the fire came within a half a mile on two sides of my home. I have survivor's guilt because 90% of my church family lost their homes. The people I know that worked in the school district lost their homes. A lot of my friends lost their homes, and I feel blessed and fortunate and that God protected my home. But then on the other hand, it's hard for me. I mean, it's hard for me to hear their stories because I feel guilty that I'm still standing, but I want to share what I have left.
In having my home survive when so many have lost and so many friends have lost their homes and much more, it's been strange. I feel awkward when I know so many have lost so much. There's that survivor's guilt type of thing where you feel bad telling people, yeah, my home is there.
Survivor's guilt is a symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, that many of those whose homes were left standing after the campfire continue to suffer from. Others, such as Jaya May Gregory, whose home and business were destroyed, feel a deep sense of loss and displacement.
That's Jacob's room right there. And this is actually the master bedroom where Asher was born. Yeah, you were born in this house. A few months ago, I was still in shock, and there was so much stuff to deal with. FEMA, homeowners insurance, managing the horses that had been injured in the fire, getting the kids enrolled in new schools. And now everything's kind of settled. And we're trying to figure out our new routine. And the shock isn't there anymore. It's, okay, this is real. We have to figure out what we're going to do with our future. And we can't just go home. I feel really lost. And I'm just not sure where to go.
The restoration of the fire-damaged towns of the Ridge continues. Removal of trees and debris may take years, and while the work has begun, no one expects a quick resolution or restoration. The emotional recovery of campfire victims will also take years, as lives are rebuilt and emotional healing continues.
My mom is 79 years old. My stepdad is 84 years old. I know that they're traumatized just because of the look that comes over their face from time to time. And seeing their faces when they saw their property for the first time. I have some really raw pictures of my mom at that moment. And it's like somebody took a giant eraser and just erased her life. And not only hers, it's not like her Christmas tree exploded and her house burned down. There's thousands and thousands of other people that have this raw, awful, open wound. It's really, really, really hard. I feel homeless. That's what's hard. I lost my home. Not the house. I don't care about that. It wasn't mine. It's the home. Everything I loved. Except my family, of course, but I lost my church is gone. Just the opportunity to live there is gone. It's not going to ever come back for me. It's gone. And I'm having a hard time letting go of it.
The reactions of individuals who escaped the campfire differ greatly. While some prefer not to discuss the events of November 8th and the deadliest wildfire in Californian history, many feel it's beneficial, both to themselves and others, to share the events that unexpectedly and permanently changed their lives. For those who lived through and escaped the campfire, it is a day that will never be forgotten.
There was firewalls up on both sides and just the fire coming down onto the cars, and there was a picket fence I remember seeing, and it was popping off and coming over, and then I looked over and a man came out of his car with his baby in his arms with a towel or something wrapped around the baby, and was running through the flames because they panicked. And I just knew that if I couldn't do that, I had to stay in the car.
So right about that time, there was a huge explosion, she rocked the house. She looks out the kitchen window, which is the opposite direction from where the fire is coming, and there's a fire over there.
Like our neighbors 3 yards over, I could see.
So we could literally see we were getting boxed in and had no time left.
And at one point, there was a lady who was in the back of a pickup truck, and fire embers were coming down on her, and she's trying to brush them off of her.
All of a sudden there was fire in front of us instead of behind us once we got out towards Skyway. And just fire on each side of the road, and you can't pull over the wall of flames and everything going over. We had to blast our way through it because you can't drive through that slow. I realized my wife was beeping her horn and flashing her lights with me. I pretty much figured out by then the back of the truck was on fire.
Trees in the canyon across the street, you could hear them burning, and then you could hear this crash. And I remember saying, is that thunder? Because I was thinking huge thunderstorm. And my 13-year-old said, no, Mom, those are trees that are crashing after they've burned. I remember driving away and thinking, our house isn't gonna burn. Our house is not gonna burn. The firefighters are gonna come in, like, swoop down like heroes, do what they do, and everything's gonna be fine.
I suppose I had a couple of hours before I actually left the house. I was trying to decide, honestly, I was trying to decide what I could take, what I needed to take, and I became overwhelmed by that. One of the things that I saw sitting on my table was my friend Irene's thermos, and I thought, well, I can get that.
When you see the flames, you know you're not getting out. You're risking your life getting out. And people died within 1 mile of my home trying to escape. We got, at about 8 o'clock, I got a code red alert on my phone that says, there's a fire in Butte County. Okay, I was already watching my one neighbor's house burn to the ground.
I got scared, I got very nervous. I went out front, my neighbor had come over and out my front door, and I could see the smoke. I could hear, I didn't know what it was at the time, it sounded like thunder. And so I thought, is that really a fire? And what am I listening? One of the thoughts that went through my head was, am I listening to, what is burning down? What am I listening to? Is that paradise?
Six months have now passed since the campfire in November 8th. The scars remain everywhere to be seen. But in the midst of the devastation, hope is springing up. Healing has begun and is reflected in the new beginning of the towns of the Ridge. Work is going forward to rebuild and to restore.
It feels somewhat less raw in some ways, because I'm starting a new life, and I'm looking for a job and trying to keep busy and so forth. So I'm trying to look forward instead of looking back, but it seems like the past right now is still there. There's still something that grabs me, and that's kind of when the self-pity can come in, and especially when, I'm alone with my thoughts and so forth. So self-pity can really be destructive. So it's kind of try not to wallow in that and so forth. So I'm trying to kind of live beyond that, and just asking God for grace to give me strength to, to look forward and know that there's a future and beyond what we've gone through. And
it's really strange because we have a house up here. Really, still in our minds, we have a house up here, and we're still kind of living in that house in our minds, at least in mine. And but then we're in a house that we're very grateful that we have, but it's not our house. We didn't choose that house. We didn't choose anything about this, but we're very grateful. So you have that struggle of, you want to be grateful because everybody wants you to be grateful, and you really should be anyway, because that's what helps you in life. But then you also have to acknowledge that this is a grievous thing that has happened. I mean, this is not usual. Grief's hard anyway, but this is, you got everybody that you are communicating with is going through the whole same thing. And that's a big thing of it too, is that all your friends are going through it. And so you can understand, but a lot of the times you don't have the strength to help because you're going through it.
I've discovered through this fire we've become a fraternity of sorts. And initially I was thinking it was the people that lived the campfire. We're all fire brothers and sisters now. But what I've discovered over the last couple of months is that it's not just the people that have lived it. It's all the people that have supported us and helped us out. So many people want so desperately to help in any way they can, even if it's just emotional support. And that's really been touching. And in that way, we are all fire brothers and sisters.
Beauty comes forth from ashes. Even on the very day of the campfire, engagements were made and new lives began.
All my projects are done. I don't have to fix the house anymore. I'm ready to move. It's time for new beginnings. And I said, hey, why don't we get hitched?
And I looked at him and I said, did you just ask me a question?
Well, I looked her in the eye and I said, Tracy Lorraine Crothers, would you consider being my wife?
How could I say no, right? Not that I would have.
As I've been going through the trauma the other day, I realized that my laughter has come back. My grandson did something silly. He's always teasing me. He's 16, but he has now passed me in height. So now he realizes he can do things he couldn't before. So he said something to me and I just burst into laughter, and I realized my healing is coming because my laughter has come back.
It's kind of an adventure. Going through a life of trauma and looking for where God's going to show up next.